There are a lot of women out there who do not want to hear what you have to say when you are trying to warn them about dangers. You are essentially reading them the warning label about the person that they're dating or who they plan to marry. And in fact, they don't want to hear it, and they also turn you into public enemy number one for trying to tell them. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. I've been counseling women and men who have experienced abuse as well as those who have been perpetrators of abuse and other violent crimes. And I wanted to come on here and talk to you all about there's a public, breakup slash divorce, whatever you want to call it, that's going on right now, between two reality television people that were on reality television. And, when these two got together, I remember very clearly, like her mother, her castmates, other women in the public spaces were warning her about how her husband was an opportunist. Her man at the time was an opportunist, and her mother like shouted it from the rooftops. And I agreed with them. I agreed with the people that were warning them, but she didn't want to hear it and got very angry, with the people and thought that they were disrespectful. And you could sort of see the train wreck coming from a mile away. Um, and since then, and again, I don't know all the inner workings behind, what went on behind closed doors, but you do kind of know, as a woman, that's been around the world, if just been in the world and done the kind of work that I've done, you can kind of see certain patterns and things like that, and people, certain patterns and behaviors and things of that nature in people. And so, you can kind of tell that, like, oh, um, she is heading towards a red flag. And I think one of the biggest things that stood out for me, as being a woman of means, she wanted to do a prenuptial agreement before they got married. And I think prenups are fantastic, right? If you've grinded all your life and you got some assets and things like that you want to protect, then fantastic. Who doesn't like prenups? People that don't have that and feel like they know that they want to come up and get something. And so there was like all this sort of fighting within that relationship that they had over that prenup. And I was like, ugh, but anyhow, she didn't want to see the red flag or heed to that and say, you know what, I'm cool off of that. We can just date. We can be a couple. We can be whatever. I'm not down for getting married. And that's one of the things you have to think about when you have huge assets and liabilities and things like that. And her mother was shouting it from the rooftops. All of these people were telling her that. Plus, there had been some grumblings about some inappropriate behaviors going on with her friends. But I'm here to tell you that, like, and I don't do this anymore, but even being as a well-intentioned friend or family member, colleague, or peer, as you are, people do not want to hear it. And if you are a woman trying to warn another woman, watch out, because that can very quickly turn into, you're just jealous of me and my man and what we've got going on. You want what I have, or you tried to get with him and it didn't work out, and or this and that and the other, and it could just completely turn into this warped thing that it totally is not. When you're actually trying to protect a friend, you're trying to warn someone of what's to come. Like, hey, I've noticed this, that, and the other thing. You just may want to watch out. They don't want to hear it. And a lot of times, in order to work out the happy ending in their mind that they're going to have with this character, they're going to turn you into public enemy number one. And a lot of women lose their friendships, their sisters, their mother, all of that kind of stuff. They lose that, or their relationship becomes very fractured over this because they wanted to go ahead and be with that man. And or woman, or whatever your situation was. And what actually ends up happening is you end up staying in a bad situation for way too doggone long, because you know what? Now you got to eat your words. everything that everybody told you is becoming true. And there's so much shame, there's so much guilt, there's so much like, well, I don't want to have to, I don't want to have to. Now everybody's gonna know that I'm gonna look a certain way. Everybody's gonna have something to say, and so now I'm gonna try to work it out. I'm gonna stay in it with someone because of my embarrassment of not listening to what people warned me about. So, just if you've been on the warning end of trying to warn a person, which I'm sure a lot of you have if you watch me, don't try not to take it personal, even though it can be personal. Try not to take it personal. That person is just on their journey and they're trying to make some narrative that really has nothing to do with you work. And anybody that gets in the way of that is not, they feel like is out of alignment with them. So you could be a well-intentioned and well-meaning friend, family member, or whatnot, and they're not gonna, they're not gonna listen to that. But they're gonna work it out in their mind, and that a lot of men who are predatory know this, and they use this to their advantage, and they may hype up the narrative around jealousy or she's insecure or she tried to holler at me and I didn't want it, that kind of stuff. They will use that to their advantage because they know that woman is more invested in him, in their story, than she is in sort of going with her community. This is what leads to a lot of women losing their community once they get with a man. Because and this is part of abuse dynamics that not a lot of people talk about. This is that male-centeredness that's going to get you caught up every single time. And you cannot be friends with male-centered women. And I'm at the point in my life where I can't even be family with male-centered women because it is so like detrimental to my health. And I'm not saying all men are bad. I'm not saying all women are bad. I'm just saying that when you have people that are on a certain trajectory, you got to just step it. You got to step it all the way back and let them do what they want to do. Because if you try to, even no matter how well intentioned you are, you try to warn them, you try to have a conversation with them about it, they ain't going to want to hear it, and they're going to get pissed. They're going to be, accusing you of all types of things. They're going to have smoke for you. They're going to have energy for you that they'll never have for that man. Hope that helps. Thanks so much.